Hey guys, this is Fergal from Poker VIP, and we're back yet again for another coaching series over on Coral Poker. So this time around, we're going to be playing 20 NL or above throughout. The reason that we've upped the stakes from the previous video is that Coral are currently running a promotion called Poker Hands Go, which we're going to be partaking in. So it's essentially a play on the new Pokemon Go game. Essentially what you have to do in order to qualify is just play 20 NL or above, just play at the regular tables, get dealt all of the pocket pairs from pocket through pocket aces, and you get entered into a free roll. Simple as that for doing so. So very easy, very straightforward to do. I'm going to show you how to opt into it. So once you're in the Coral client here, you click into My Account. You go into the missions section here, so this will display all of the relevant missions. You go ahead, you click Start, and it's as simple as that. Once you confirm it, that's it. You're opted in, you're good to go, and it tracks all of your progress here throughout then as well. So you're able to, once you scroll down here, you can keep an eye and see how you are getting on. So I have some tables ready to go now, so I'm just going to go ahead, sit back into it. I'm just going to get this out of the way, and we're good to go. So as I said, I've loaded up all of the tables already, so we're just going to jump straight into the action. It's going to be the same basic format as my previous videos, so we are going to be just talking through the spots as they arise. We're going to be hopefully winning some stacks, and hopefully, as I said, a few interesting spots will arise. We're already up a little bit over on a couple of the tables. Over here we're up a little under €9, and here we're just up a euro or so, so nothing amazing, but nearly a half a buy-in. Just kind of while I was getting the table set up and stuff, I was just playing through, getting everything ready, and we picked up a couple of nice hands, so it's always nice to get the session off to a good start. So as I said, we're just going to fire straight in, and hopefully things will go our way. So King 5 down on the bottom right table. This hand, typically speaking, we're going to be looking at this. This is the one table that isn't six-handed, so we're only four-handed. We will be playing it a little bit more aggressively as a result, but King 5 versus the under the gun opener is not going to cut it here either way, especially when there's the re-raise anyway, so we're happy enough just to let that one go. Over on this table, we have to raise. We posted our big and our small blinds. We were in for 30 cent anyway, so we're risking 30 cent to pick up 60 cent, which is a pretty good risk-reward ratio in my opinion, so we have to go for it. We take it down without any fuss, so we're always happy with that. On the top right table, this Don't Provoke Me fella, he's on a couple of our tables. He seems like he might be one of the more regular players. Queen 5 is definitely going to be a marginal open blind versus blind when you think your opponent might be one of the more competent players around, so we're going to let that one go. Versus a lot of other players though, we surely would be looking to open that. It's obviously not a powerhouse by any stretch, but it's good enough for a steal in a lot of cases. Just that one was not one of them. And Queen 9 is going to be good enough when we have position on the button to go for a steal though. Same principle here, 4-6, we're not going to be stealing versus this guy. As I said, he seems like he's going to be one of the more competent players from what I've seen already. Ace Deuce though, on the bottom left table, we're going to be defending blind versus blind. It's a hand that I don't mind 3-betting. We definitely can look at doing that, but I think it's going to be absolutely fine just calling and playing in position when we're closing the action like that as well. On the top left table, we have just checked our option with the deuce and the 5. We flop a gut shot, so hopefully this is just going to check through. We don't really have enough equity to be calling any bets, but we'd like to see a free turn if possible. And this board on the bottom left table with the ace deuce is not a particularly good one, so we're just going to be going ahead and folding. And obviously a very standard open with the suited ace on the top right table here. King Queen offsuit, we are going to be bringing it in for a defend. And speaking of gut shots, we have binked it on the top left table. Now, the only issue that I have here is that because it was checked through, it's not all that likely that we are going to win a huge pot here. We are going to be raising here for sure though. This pro poker player to our right, he's the most likely person to have an ace after the flop check through. We don't want to just flat call because obviously there are potential heart draws and so on that are out there. And by raising, if someone does have an ace, we pretty much ensure that we win in quite a substantial pot. If they don't have an ace, by just flat calling, we do allow them to take another stab and look to bluff at it again. But I think once we do call the turn, it's pretty unlikely that they're going to fire the river again as a bluff. So I don't think the upside of checking or of just flat calling there outweighs the great amount of positives that can come by putting in the raise and looking to build a pot as big as we can when we have the nuts or close to it. I don't think we had the absolute nut straight, but we had close enough to the nuts that we're happy to get all the money in for sure. The suited ace over here we're going to be using as a 3-bet bluff from the button opener. I don't love that he has potted it, but I still think it's going to be okay. And don't provoke me, we're going to need to start playing back at this guy. He definitely seems like one of the more aggressive players for sure in the pool, and just as I say that, he is 4-betting us on the top right table. The suited ace we're just going to have to let go, but we are definitely going to have to look at start playing back versus this guy if this continues throughout the session. I don't like having people at the table that are that aggressive. We need to show them that we cannot be trifled with, that we're not afraid to get the money in. So we'll just be looking to pick some decent spots. Hopefully if we can pick some up early on, that'd be ideal, and just kind of make our mark on the table, show that we can't be walked over. Jack King suited, I think we're actually just going to flat call here in position. 3-betting here would be fine as well, but I think calling is going to be absolutely fine too. As I said, we have absolute position in the hand, and we can definitely induce some light squeezes from the blinds as well. When the board comes ace high and we completely whiff it, we're just going to go ahead and fold. Especially when he chooses that sizing. He goes on the larger side, so if he had gone a smaller size, we could consider floating and then looking to take it down if it's checked to us on the turn. But versus that sizing, I think his range is going to be very ace heavy there and very value heavy in general. So I think trying to continue there is going to be a mistake. The 9-jack offsuit on the bottom right, we're definitely going to be playing it now, blind versus blind. We just get the walk, which is absolutely fine by me, no issues at all there. And 4-6 suited, we are going to be bringing it in for an open. We're probably not going to fold to a 3-bet here. Even being out of position sucks, but as I said, we can't just consistently fold every single 3-bet. We need to start looking to defend at some point, and 4-6 suited does have the potential to flop very well on occasion. King-Queen suited is a no-brainer defend here. So we flop quite well. And we're just going to call the ace and the 4. So we're pretty much just going to be calling down here. I don't think we want to be raising at any point. So we're just going to click call, and we're not planning on folding at any point. We are going to fire now for value though. We're just going to go on the smaller side. And ace high on the bottom left table here, when it's been checked down, actually has a decent amount of showdown value. I don't see any value in betting here at any point. I don't think we're going to fold out many better aces with the way the hand is played. And yeah, as I said, we are good. I was expecting to be good there reasonably often, so fine by me. Ace-King offsuit, we are going to be bringing it in for a re-raise versus our Don't Provoke Me friend over here. And King-6 we're going to be using as a steal versus our player here to our left. So we take it down with the Ace-King, which again, not exactly what I wanted, but there are worse scenarios for sure. So things can always be worse. Remember, when you win the pot, things can always be worse, so we're not going to complain. Pocket jacks, obviously we're going to be opening, and we are going to be playing a very large pot if this player decides to get aggressive again. On the bottom left table, so we have completed one of our challenges on the Poker Go with our pocket pairs. We're going to be betting here now for value when we turn top and bottom pair. So we're definitely hoping for some value here. We get called again. I'm just going to go a bet again. I'm going to bet on the larger side here for sure. He's going to have a decent number of 2-pair combos and so on, with like hands like 9-10, 8-10, those kinds of hands. If we get raised, we are going to be upset, but if this guy has a 7, he's going to be raising, obviously. But I do think that there are a decent number of hands that he can call us with here. So, and obviously we're not going to have a huge amount of 7s in our range there either, so when we go on the larger side, it definitely might look a little bit suspicious, so he might make some lighter call downs than he might be otherwise inclined. But he folds anyway, which again, we're not devastated by that result or anything of the sort, so it is what it is. And Queen 7 is going to be close. If it's folded to us, I think we're going to go ahead and open it. Pocket 9's definitely going to be an open, and when it's been opened for us, we're just going to flat call and play a pot in position, or in position versus the open and raiser at least. If the button comes along for the ride, obviously we don't have absolute position. And I'm going to be using Queen 7 as a squeeze versus the open limper. Like in general, we're going to assume that anyone who's open limping is not going to be a particularly great player. So we're going to be looking to play as many pots in position. Even with hands like Queen 7, it's going to be absolutely fine to do this with. I don't love that we have an extra caller in the small blind, but things can be worse. It's a pretty good board. It's not the easiest to have connected with. I'm just going to go ahead and fire once. Because we're betting into 2 people, we should get a decent amount of respect. I don't really expect to get played back at here light ever. So I'm going to fire out and see if we can just take it down. And on the bottom right table with the pocket 9s, it's a pretty bad board for us. When he bets in, and again when he chooses this sizing, we're just going to go ahead and muck. On the top right table, we get called, which is upsetting. I don't really want to be firing multiple barrels at this. We are going to start betting now for value on the top left. I mean, we were obviously never planning on folding. We get re-raised here, which is quite interesting. I'm going to go ahead and call. I'm not loving this situation at all. Like when we get re-raised on that board, like we have a very strong hand, but it's kind of difficult to see what he's doing that with for value that we're ahead of. And there's not a huge amount of bluffs that he can show up with there. I'm kind of curious what he showed down there. So he had 5-4 for the absolute 0 equity bluff. Okay. So we didn't miss out on any value, but I was right. I mean, his line just seemed very strange. And as I said, there are some hands for sure that have us beat that he's doing that for value, but there's not that many hands that he's doing that for value that we beat, even though we are quite strong. So a bit of an awkward spot, but hey, we won. And as I said, by raise, if we did raise, we weren't going to be getting any extra money out of him. He only had 5 high, so we're not going to complain. We didn't miss out on anything there. A strange situation though. 6-8 suited. We are going to be bringing it in for a raise. This guy has posted his blinds, so it's been raised before, so we're just going to go ahead and fold now. So he's playing any 2 cards and he's in for 30 cent. In general, when you're playing the regular tables, you don't want to be posting the blinds. You should always be waiting for the big blind before you sit in. It's not going to make a massive difference to your win rate, especially if you play kind of longer sessions, but it definitely is going to have a negative impact, so it just doesn't make any sense to post them when you don't have to. Like, if you look at your statistics from poker, if you look at your positional statistics, you'll find that all of the money you're losing is in the big blinds because you have to post the money, like you have to post mandatory money without seeing your cards. And having to do that is just impossible to overcome that range disadvantage when you have to put money in blind. So if you can avoid posting money like that before you see your cards, you should always do so. So we river trips. I think we're just going to go ahead and bet here. He's not going to show us that much King X, but I don't think he is going to be just bluffing this river that much either with his missed draws either. So I think our best chance of getting value here is just hoping he has a king and betting on the larger side. So I don't think he's going to be able to fold a king there. As I said, I mean, I wasn't expecting a call there that often, but I wasn't expecting him to start bluffing at it if we check to him either, so I think I prefer just going ahead and betting for value ourselves and hoping that he has the king. On the bottom left table, we're going to be going ahead and raising up the ace-queen versus the short stacker. We're not going to be thrilled if he jams the money in, but we're not planning on folding either with a hand as strong as ace-queen. Again, because he's in for a very short stack, we're going to assume that he is not one of the better players in the pool. That's a fairly general assumption that I'd make about most players that are short stacking. There are some very well defined short stack strategies out there that are very tough to play against, but the majority of people playing at these limits are not going to be utilizing them, and they're going to be playing fairly suboptimally as a general rule of thumb. Obviously there are some exceptions to this, but as I said, as a basic rule, if you make that assumption, you're never really going to go that far wrong. And ace-queen has more than enough showdown value here. I'm just happy to check it down. The 8 really sucks because now any of the aces that we were beating, we're now chopping with. So we're just going to go ahead and call, and we win. Very strange sizing to choose with his bluff. I wasn't planning on folding to any sort of reasonable sizing anyway, but when he bets that amount, we're obviously never folding, and probably not even folding king high, queen high. We probably fold, but for when we're getting such a good price, it's kind of difficult to fold anything really, even just to see what he has for value, basically just for information purposes for later on in the game. Kind of worth just flicking in the big blind when you're getting like 11 or 12 to 1 on your money. So we don't love getting called on the button here. Obviously, we would prefer to have advantage for this, or our positional advantage for the hand, but we'll have a hand that could potentially flop well, so we'll see how it goes. So we don't flop a pair, but we do flop quite a decent draw. We're going to go ahead and fire here on this. We have a decent amount of fold equity. Obviously, they're not going to have a massive amount of King X. We're going to have some, and obviously any diamond is a fantastic card for us. Unfortunately, the player that we really wanted to fold out does not fold, so plan B is just get there with the diamonds. And now we're just going to be betting on the larger side and looking to extract max value. If we raise here, it's actually going to be, if he raises here, it's actually going to be kind of gross. It would be very difficult for him to be raising that particular turn with the worst hand. It'd be a very, very difficult laydown to make, but I think it might actually be correct in that particular situation. Given how obvious the flush draw is, and it's just very, very unlikely he'd be raising that turn as a bluff. So we're going to be raising up the Queen 9 of diamonds again, so let's hope we get some more diamonds. The short stacker raises, obviously he's not anywhere near deep enough that we can click call. I don't like his sizing here at all. With his stack, he's made it way too big. And unfortunately, we get a walk on the bottom right table with the ace-king suited, but hey, these things, they do happen. We would have preferred some action, obviously. Pocket nines, we are going to be bringing it in for a raise if it's folded to us, and if there's a raise before us, we're probably going to be flat calling. We're going to be raising a button opener though for sure. And when it's folded, as I said, we're just going to be bringing it in for a raise ourselves. Jack Queen is going to be good enough for a button steal. Deuce 8, unfortunately, there is not much that we can do with that on the top right table. So we're bringing in the Jack Queen for a steal, as I said. We don't hate, if we get 3-bet, we're going to call and play a pot in position, sizing permitting, obviously, and we're happy enough just to take it down, though, with Queen High. Ace 9 is going to be a steal as well from the cutoff. Pocket Jacks in the top left table, we're going to be bringing it in for a 3-bet versus the button or small blind open. And if there's a limper, we're going to be raising it up, obviously. So the button raises, and as I said, we're going to be happy to go ahead and 3-bet, and our standard out of position 3-bet sizing is to 4x the opening raise. Again, we would have preferred action, but we don't mind getting the fold either. If he flat calls there are a decent number of flops that we're not overly happy with, so there are, again, always worst case scenarios for when you just win the pot outright like that. And Ace Jack, obviously a standard open blind versus blind. Standard open from any position at the table, actually, when it's suited. Ace 9 here, we do have some showdown value with our ace, and I don't really see us folding out that many pairs here, and we have the open ender to go along with our ace high, so we're just going to check this back. King is a very bad card. It's very difficult to see how we can be good here now. We're going to call and see a flop with the Jack Queen suited. We could potentially use that as a 3-bet, but I think just flat calling is going to be absolutely fine as well. It's going to play very, very well post-flop, even out of position. We flop an open ender, and we have 2 overcards to the board. We're going to be checking, and we are going to be calling any reasonable sizing. So he's gone for around about 2/3 pots, as I said. We're going to click check, we're going to click call, and we're going to return the absolute stone cold nuts, which is nice. If he bets again, we're probably going to check raise. It kind of sucks because it looks so strong, but obviously we are very strong, but I kind of feel like we have to try. And when the 10 hits, I'm just going to go ahead and bet here. We're not going to have a huge amount of 10x ourselves, although maybe checking here might be better. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and check, actually. Like, he can definitely bluff this river, and I don't think he's going to show us much value here ever. So it's just kind of hard to imagine what kind of hand he can have here that will call. We're never afraid of being beat here, realistically. Obviously, it's a paired board, which isn't amazing, but any sets or any 2-pair combos, he would for sure be betting, I would assume anyway, betting on the turn. So we're just going to go ahead and raise for value. I'm expecting a huge amount of folds here, but no, we get called, which is great. So let's see what he had. He had the ace and the 10, that makes sense. So we get some extra value there by checking to him. I think if we had bet there, it's not all that likely he was going to raise on that kind of board. He may have, though. But by checking, we ensured, and as I said, by checking to him, it wasn't necessarily his 10x that I was targeting, it was just his absolute air that he would feel compelled to bluff with. With top over in the bottom right table, we're going to click call. Obviously, it's not a particularly good board for us, but we're going to have the best hand here enough that I think we can just call this down. If he chooses any kind of reasonable sizing on the river, we're just going to click call again. It goes check, and he's jacks, which I'm quite surprised at. He played them very passively. Oh, no, I don't want to max. I clicked the max all in button there by mistake. I definitely don't want to just open jam, but I do want to be 3-betting for sure. We get calls and we whiff the flop pretty hard. We're going to start this off with a check, and we're going to see what kind of sizing he chooses if he opts to bet. He chooses quite small. We're not planning on folding here, so we're going to click check and call. And we turn the king, which is great news. And on the bottom left table, we almost certainly have the best hand here. I'm just going to bet really, really small here. The top left table, I think we're just going to click call again and just try to encourage as many bluffs as possible. I'm going to just bet a really, really small and tilting amount. Just as if he has busted hearts, he may be tempted to come back over the top as a bluff, because it's kind of... People hate folding to this kind of sizing, but if he has no showdown value, he can't call. So yeah, I'm guessing he had some sort of busted heart draw there, seems the likeliest to me. And if we just check to him outright, I think there's a pretty good chance he's just checking that back and giving it up. But by betting a really, really small and tilting amount, like, as I said, people absolutely hate folding to those tiny sizes, and we can definitely induce some bluffs that he may not have made before. So we just won our hand with pocket fives there, so we have completed another challenge of our Poker Hands Go promotion. And we've picked up pocket kings here as well, which I don't believe we had kings yet, so that should be another one in the bag. So we're flying through the hands so far this session. So we're getting some action with our kings, which is obviously great news. That's what we want. No ace on the flop, which is brilliant news. So we're realistically going to be looking to stack this player on the vast majority of runouts. We're going to be starting it off. If he checks to us, we're going to be starting off with a bet of around 130 to 140. He leads out himself here. I'm just going to put in a really, really small raise, just click it back on him. He calls, which we're not unhappy about at all. And we're just going to bet an amount that just commits him to call all in on the river, regardless of his holding, essentially, if he calls this. Decent chance he's just going to jam over the top of us here as well. The 6 isn't great. He's going to show us some straights here with hands like 9, 10 and that kind of thing, but as I said, if he has that hand, if he has us beat here, we're just going broke every single time, so we're not going to worry about it. And as I said, nothing to do here but just to stick the last fiver in the pot and hope he has a hand like 8x and calls us down. So yeah, pocket kings is good enough for a win there. So he called us with a 7x, which is even lighter than I was hoping. So I think that's the sizing we chose there made it very, very difficult for him to get away there. But I think when we raised I think his lead on the flop was quite bad, and when we raise and he calls anyway, it's definitely a little bit spewy for sure. But that's the nice thing about choosing these small sizings. It makes it very, very difficult for people with marginal showdown value to get away from those types of hands, even though they clearly should be. So my best advice there is don't be one of those people. make decisions. Like, as I said, all of that had stemmed from him leading out large on the flop. That allowed us to 100% guarantee that we stacked him on by the river, essentially. Whereas if he was just in check call mode, we may not have been able to get all of the money in by the river, so he might have saved himself some chips there. Ace queen, obviously raising it up. 6-9 suited, we are probably just going to complete here in a multi-way pot. I don't really want to go squeezing out of position here, especially with hot red lips over here on the bottom left table. When they're so short, they may be prone to just start rejamming over our hand, which is definitely not what we want. Especially with this kind of scenario. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked at all to see him just reship here. and it'd be a good move with a huge portion of his range. His call is bad in my opinion. If he has a hand that he's willing to play here, I feel he should be willing to play it for stacks pre-flop given the action, the amount of dead money in the pot. And ace queen, we are betting essentially. There's not going to be that many cards that's going to slow us down. We're not going to be thrilled if a spade or a king rolls off, but yeah, the 7 of hearts is absolutely perfect. We're just going to be betting again for value. We're about €2 seems about right to me. So about 2/3 of the pot. So he's called us very quickly, and we're just going to bet again and hope he can pick us off with a hand like king queen. We're just going to go slightly under €5, so 480 into €7. He snap folds, so again, we're going to assume he had some sort of busted draw there. The 5-3 offsuit on the button, we're not going to be playing. The Queen 7 suited, also from mid position, we're not going to be playing. 8-Jack offsuit, obviously we're not in love with this hand at all, but we're getting 3.5 to 1 in our money versus this opening raise, so we're never planning on folding it, but we're going to be playing quite cautiously on a lot of different flops that we connect with, so it's not going to be a great situation for us, but we can never really consider folding a hand like this to a min raise in my opinion. So all that we need for this to be more profitable than folding is to lose less than 100 big blinds per 100 hands, because obviously if we fold, we're losing 1 big blind per hand. So I would be 99% sure that 8-Jack is definitely going to fare better than that by calling than we would by folding. So we're just going to go ahead and bet out here now. The only problem is this is the player who has proven himself to be a little bit sticky when it comes to his pairs, so we're really just hoping he's completely whiffed and is giving it up. But we do have a gut shot just in case we get called anyway, which is something. Or we have an open ender. Sorry, I didn't even realize that we had the belly buster. I just thought we had the gut shot to the jack eye straight. On the bottom right table, we called the min raise, we flop middle pair, we're just checking and calling. We turn a gut shot, which is good and bad. We don't love the 9, but we don't hate it either. The ace I'm not in love with at all. We're just going to be checking and probably check giving up if he bets here. And yeah, he shows us the ace, which I'm not surprised at. Genuinely shocked that he doesn't go for value there. It seems absurd to me that he doesn't go for small value. The top right table, we are going to be squeezing the limp, or ISOing the limper, should I say, with the queen and the 9. And we get limp raised, unfortunately. Here, even though we're getting quite a decent price on our money, I think we're going to have to fold. The limp raise is indicative of an inexperienced player, generally with quite a strong holding. And even getting a little over 3 to 1 on our money, it's going to be quite tricky to play a hand like queen 9 out of position, because we can't necessarily assign him a concrete range of all nutted hands. People definitely do that with worse, but a decent amount of the time it is hands like aces, like kings, and so on. So I think I'm happy enough just to go ahead and let that one go. I'd be confident that we're going to be able to find better spots against that player. King deuce suited is a little bit close here on the bottom right table. We can't consider opening it, but I think we're just going to let this one go. Wouldn't be an absurd open by any stretch, but I think we're going to be fine just folding it as well. And we just folded the queen 8 under the gun over on the top left table as well. Very standard. That would be a particularly loose open from that position. Although we would have hit a flush, not an amazingly good flush, with four to a straight flush on the board, so we actually only had the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th nuts. The king and the jack offsuit, we're more than likely going to be playing. We're probably going to be bringing this in for a 3-bet bluff. We may consider just flat calling if it's blind versus blind. When he limps, we're raising for sure. And we get min raised over here, so obviously we're never folding. I think re-raising here would be a mistake for sure. We're like, this is a dream scenario for us, essentially, getting to play 8-9 suited in a multi-way pot. A reasonably sized multi-way pot as well at that. So, on the top left table, we should have the best hand here very frequently. We have the second nut flush draw to go along with our pair, which is great news. And it's pretty difficult to see how we're beat here, so I think he's going to show us a decent number of hands like Jack Queen, 10 Jack, those types of hands, and not a huge amount of Ace Jack, so I'm just going to bet again for value. I'm going to go on the larger side. So we get snap called. I'm assuming he had a worse jack, one of the hands that we mentioned. No, he had the ace and the 7, so another very light call down. People are just giving their money away on this site. This is amazing. So far this session, we are up 2 buy-ins on the top left table, roughly, and between the top right and the bottom left table, we're up about half a buy-in, so 2.5 buy-ins approximately for the session so far in the space of a half an hour is not that bad at all. And with that, that's actually going to be a session for me. So let me just go ahead. I'm going to fold the 9-7 suited. So I'm just going to bring back up the lobby to see how we got on with our promotion. So we completed 4 out of the 13 hands. So as I said, I mean, getting dealt all the pocket pairs, it's not that hard, not that big an ask at all. And as I said, it's just free money on top of your regular grind, which is fantastic news. So if anyone is playing on Coral Poker, obviously if you're not, you can get set up through Poker VIP through their affiliate deals. And if you're already playing on it, I'd highly recommend that you get on this promotion. As I said, if you're playing the regular tables, it's just free money on top of your regular day-to-day grind. So that's been me, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I'll be back again soon with part 2 through 4 as well. So thanks for watching again. As per usual, if you have any questions or queries or anything of the sort about any of the hands that we played, feel free to post them in the comments. I do check them as frequently as I can, so I'll do my best to get back to you in due course. Thanks very much, guys. Take it easy.